pass it to Junie.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think God is sovereign in all things, and I think God still works in a lot of ways. Besides the things that Prophet Brandon said, sometimes when you go through, I'm not sure if you've ever been through a tricky situation. I have been in dicey spots a few times, and I think it's remarkable that I'm not dead. And I was just, I could have nearly knocked down by a bus just by a split second. I could have been shot not too far away from here, or it's a place where people were shooting at each other, and things like that. Of course, it could just be all random chance and stuff, and I'm sure one day I'm gonna die too. But for me at least, it feels like the fact that I'm only 23, and I have a lot of chance. I could have been dead 3 or 4 times over, but I'm still alive. And for me, I think I'm thankful to God that He's preserved me.
And I'll just follow up by saying we don't look for God in the extraordinary, but also in the ordinary things that He superintends, we believe, and holds everything together as we see it. And so, when I say a prayer with my children before a meal, I'm certain that I thank God for things that are ordinary, daily provisions that everyone experiences, but I recognize that God's hand is in that, and so I try to live by that and remind my family of that and the people that also believe in God that He is responsible for every good that we have.
Thank you, Brad. And I think we have time for one more question, so are you right there?
Yes, my name is Khaldun. I teach philosophy at Olive Harvey College next door. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate engaging on this issue because I don't think there's a more important question. For the atheist side, Josh and Ben, the foundation of your position seems to be of science. I would encourage you to take a look at the very foundations of science, and those are basically not based on scientific methods, per se. They're based on other issues. Logical truths, moral truths, and the question of ethical issues. We don't use scientific methodologies to arrive at answers. We use other types of basis of knowledge to get those answers. Is it wrong to kill somebody? I don't look into an empirical method to find out if that's the case. Logical, modus ponens, and logic. I would use empirical methods to find that answer. I use logical answers in the sense that I would look at something deeper than math. Math, is an answer as well to deal with the issues. I would look at something deeper than science to find answers to other questions like religion. I think a lot of religious people base a lot of their answers and arguments based on these questions that they get themselves wound up in problems. But I would deal with the issue, ask you to deal with the issue of science, because I don't think every answer can be adequately answered by science.
The first thing I want to say is that I didn't respond to that with the question before. That was specifically to Ben, and I personally, Ben, and I disagree on the fact that I don't think all parts of the world can be explained basically through the scientific method. I think when it comes to things like logic, when it comes to philosophy, all of those different things are not necessarily based in a kind of a straightforward way based off of the scientific method. And so I don't want to make that claim. If Ben wants to make that claim, then I think there's a conversation to be had there.
With enough caveats, I don't think we're as far apart as we are, and that there are practical concerns with learning things that are too complex. But your fundamental question about what does science have to speak about morality, I'm sure I don't need to recommend a book to you, but everyone else, Sam Harris came out with a great book, The Moral Landscape, which really irked a lot of atheists like me because he's been saying so eloquently what we've been trying to say for a while now, which is that once we make an assumption that our end-all goal is to maximize human well-being, as he said, which many philosophers can agree on, that, okay, we can make that assumption. Then, as a consequentialist, we can make our decisions based on our knowledge of the natural world. We can understand the consequences of murdering somebody or not murdering somebody. We can make, the idea, though, that morality is too complex for science, though, I will accept. There are many cases that we could come up with where, for example, he comes up with a good example in the book. If we wanted to know right now how many birds were in the air right now around the world, there's no way we could possibly, with every scientist in the world, find out the answer to that question. However, we know that it's a real number, and we know that this is subject to science, scientific investigation. Even if we know, we probably couldn't come to the real answer, no matter how hard we tried. So what I'm arguing when I talk about the science of human morality, I'm talking about let's stop separating these two non-overlapping magisteria. They're talking about the same thing. I just think religion does a bad job of doing science. When we talk about that the Bible is true because it has these historical accuracies, these are all scientific claims. They're just not being subject to the rigors that science normally would be subject to. So I think it's just science done poorly, but it's fundamentally the same thing.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. If we could give another round of applause. To sit here. And so, just before we wrap up, I want to mention that some of our panelists are heading over to the pub afterwards for a much-needed drink. If you are of age and would like to join them, then you are more than welcome to.
Yeah, I thought we were
Yeah. Okay. I'm getting my shit. It's my moment, Josh. Come on. Again, this debate was brought to you not only by our volunteers here, but also by the Spiritual Life Council. If you want more information, check us out. We have resources for everybody, like I said, from atheists to Zoroastrian. I know it sounds cheesy, but it's true. It's so true. If you have any questions too, come find me afterwards. I can talk to you about that. Before we go, though, I just thought it'd be wonderful to have each of you give let's call it a 10-sentence conclusion about how you feel, and maybe if your mind was changed, although I was going to tell her that none of your minds were changed, but that's okay. So I'll start with you, Josh, if you don't mind.
Sure. I want to thank you guys for coming out. There are a lot of things that I think we didn't really have a lot of time to discuss, but I want to argue that human dignity is not something that we derive from any kind of a religious document. Human dignity is something that we have, over time, progressed in our understanding of, and we're getting to a better understanding of it now, but it's not something we can apply straight across. I hope that you have a chance, if you ever can, if you're swayed by some of the arguments out of biblical narrative and text, I hope you have a chance to look into some of the historical critical stuff that has come out about those texts. I think there's important arguments to be had about how we use those manuscripts and about the basis of the Bible. But in general, I want to say thank you for coming out, and that I hope you've seen the way that we've tried to argue that this world and this life makes just as much sense without God as with.
Perfect. Thank you, Josh. We'll jump to Ginny so we can mix it up a little bit. Like to your 10 sentence.
Right. Well, again, thank you all for coming out, and I'm sure all of you guys came out because there is something in you that wants to know the truth behind whether or not there is no God. That God is something which is a question that you ask, which is important to you, and from my point of view, if there is no God and everything was just evolution, if humans were not set apart from animals, I honestly have no answer for why we don't use humans for experiments. Why you don't treat humans the same way you treat animals? Why would you give animals less rights than humans? I have no idea why. And for me, I was an atheist. I became a Christian. Inverse of Josh, I guess. And I would say I think we have given clear clues and certain reasons to believe, and self-consistent reasons to believe that Christianity might be true. And it's like what I said just now. As in science, you're not really sure. You write an equation down, you have to assume it's true, develop it, and then go prove it experimentally. So I guess I really do hope that some of you are interested to say that something might be there. There's something deeper that you would truly put your heart, step that faith, put out that faith, try for yourself, and see. For me anyway, I'm a lot happier with God in my life than I was without.
Ben?
I want to say just a couple things. First being that one of the biggest arguments that I run into from atheists and theists alike is that why do you bother with these debates? Everybody just gets angry and yells at each other, and it's a waste of time. And I want to stick up and argue for debate. That being that, if our beliefs really inform our actions, then what could be more important than discussing differences? Diversity is important. We're all going to come to different conclusions. We're all going to have different styles. We can't practically come up with a computer model that's going to build a just society. So we are the computer. And the only way that we can work on this is to have discussions like this, push each other. And the second being for any atheists or secular people in the room, or people that maybe don't like the word atheist but feel secular, I would just advocate you to be honest about your beliefs. We are the most distrusted, the most hated people in the entire country.
Come on.
Oh, that's very generous. But it's important, just as with the LGBT movement, that we come out and we are seen, and we are seen as good people. And I feel that it is a civil rights issue, and we should look for communities. And my shield for the Secular Student Alliance, which is a national organization which helps support students that need a secular community. There's a chapter here. If you want more information, let Josh know.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I entered the debate tonight for one reason, because Ben invited me. If one of you would have invited me, I probably wouldn't have done this. This is my first debate, but I really like Ben, and I've met his wife, and I like them. So I enjoy this interchange. I didn't expect to change Ben's mind tonight, or Josh's, or anyone else's, but that's not how my mind was changed either, was through debate or logical reason alone. But what I did come for was simply to give an account for the reason that I believe. And there was a UC student who posted a debate. It might have been you, Ben, or someone else in this room. I'm not sure who it was. But there was a debate somewhere, either on campus or somewhere on the internet, and the link to the debate was a picture of a crucifix hanging on a clothesline by clothespins, hanging right there next to the laundry that had been washed, underwear, and so forth. And I thought that was a really interesting and ironic picture because it was posted by an atheist to say, we won again. We hung the Christians out to dry, so to speak. And I thought, you know what, if I get hung out to dry tonight, that's okay. Because ironic as it is, shameful as the cross is, that's what I believe God came to do for us. And so I would say, because I care about Ben, I hope this conversation continues at the pub and beyond. I know we haven't answered all the questions, and even the other night when we were doing the preliminaries at the pub on Thursday night, I just thought we have so much to talk about. And this will take a long time to unravel the loose ends and whatnot. But I would also just say, if you're a student at the University of Chicago, you probably consider yourself fairly privileged to be here. I would hope that you do. We have a lot of people at our church from the university and also from the community that do not have the same privileges that you do. And it's amazing when I see people's lives change on both ends of the spectrum. We have drug dealers, murderers, people like that have been a part of our church that their lives have been changed just as an aside, not because they became atheists, but because they found Jesus Christ. But the fact is, if you say, well, you know what, I'm not that bad of a person, we still have a lot of students who are struggling in crisis, and this has been what's changed their life. People that came from atheist backgrounds, or people that were raised in the church and just feel like life isn't going so well. God is real, I would say, and He's changing our lives, and that's why the name of our church is Living Hope Church. That's what we have, and we hope to present that clearly, and I appreciate you listening to me blab on as a long-winded preacher, so thanks.